large extent, these killings have become part of the new national norm. This should not be the case.
That sets the tone for the 5th National Summit on Mass Atrocities. The event, which is organized by Global Right, brought together critical stakeholders under the auspices of Community of Practice Against Mass Atrocities in Nigeria. Executive Director, Global Right Nigeria, Abiodun Bayo, in her welcome remarks said the present situation in Nigeria pushed her citizens to pick up placards to express their outrage against the government for failing to fulfill their obligations. She also said the protesters also voiced anger over the mismanagement of natural resources, public funds, and the implementation of policies that have deepened the sufferings of average Nigerians.
Our food basket communities are under siege. Hunger has caught up with the rest of us. Our energy poverty, resulting from the gross mismanagement of our mineral resources, means that industries are closing faster than they're opening. Millions have lost their jobs and were paying a ridiculous price for what should be almost free. Unable to cope, hundreds of thousands of our best minds, medical personnel, tech entrepreneurs, lawyers, and technocrats have fled the country or are trying to leave in a phenomenon known as Japa. Scores of people have died from lack of access to skilled doctors or are just being unable to afford skilled essential medicine. Children are getting pulled out of school because parents can no longer afford to pay school fees, joining the already ridiculous number of 20 million out-of-school children. Pushed to the wall, Nigerians have picked up their placards to express their outrage against the government for failing to fulfill their obligation to protect them. The protests have also voiced anger over the mismanagement of our natural resources and public funds, and the implementation of policies that deepen the sufferings of average Nigerians already grappling with inflation and global economic challenges. In the light of this recent events, it is imperative that we re-examine the state of insecurity in Nigeria and perhaps redefine it, the devastating impacts on the lives of Nigerians, and weigh government efforts to address these critical issues.
Executive Director, National Human Rights Commission, Anthony Ojukwu, in his keynote address said the theme for this year's summit captures the main purpose of government.
At the core of the right to protect is an emphasis that a state has the primary responsibility for the protection and welfare of its citizens. But where the state is either unwilling or unable to fulfill its responsibility to protect, or is itself the de facto perpetrator of crimes or atrocities against their citizens, a residual responsibility falls on other states or the international community to intervene and protect the citizens from violations. Global Right stated in its online publications I was just going through, I take a quote from there. Despite the provisions of Section 14b of our Constitution, which of course all of us know that the primary responsibility of the state is the security and welfare of the people. He said, yet, in the last 5 years, at least 24,816 people have been killed in violent mass atrocities across Nigeria. In the first half of 2024 alone, at least 2,710 people have been killed, and at least 3,481 people have been abducted. He concluded by saying that this tragic reality begs the question, how well is the Nigerian government fulfilling its mandate to ensure the security and welfare of the people? Now, the right to protect has 3 main pillars.
Chairman, Community of Practice Against Mass Atrocities in Nigeria, Ken Henshaw, and other stakeholders expressed displeasure over the continuous mass atrocities going on in Nigeria.
For too long, the demand for accountability for atrocious killings in Nigeria have been weakened by the lack of information on the victims of these atrocities. It will seem, sadly, that numbers and statistical data have diminished the value of life and the need to account for every soul we lose in murderous circumstances. Ladies and gentlemen, in the community of practice, we call attention to the killings. We document the names of those killed. We remember them by calling out their names and telling their stories. We remind our government that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria defines the security and welfare of the people to be the primary purpose of government. So far, our government have failed woefully at doing this duty. And that's why we're gathered here to have a frank, open, and daring conversation.
It's really about giving the Nigerian people a voice to say enough is enough. The terror attacks that are killing us, the attacks that have caused food insecurity and mass food inflation across the country needs to stop, because farmers' lands and communities are being taken over by bandits and terrorists and all sorts of people. They cannot farm, we cannot get our goods to farm, and so on and so forth. So Nigeria is really at a crossroads, and we have an existentialist crisis, and this summit is here to share those experiences, to talk about those things, to delve deeply into the issues. We have issues of displacement. How can we stop these violent attacks? How can we deal with terror attacks and also support victims who are going through trauma? So we expect that we'll be able to prefer more solutions, find a way to engage. Thankfully, we have partners. We've had some government agencies speak here, as you saw them today, and we can really engage and really begin to prefer more solutions, and continue to prefer solutions.
That Nigerians are losing their lives on daily basis because of the failure of the state to appropriately deal with the consequences or with the cause roots of these problems. We have seen in so many places, even some allegedly state-sponsored violence against the citizens. We have seen how some non-state actors are freely moving with dangerous arms in the country. This is a worrisome. Nigerian custom has the responsibility to ensure that arms that are entering this country are actually checkmate. You cannot be bringing arms. Before we were talking about light and small weapons. Now we are seeing dangerous weapons bringing into the country, either through the sea or through the airways or through the land border. This is unacceptable.
The theme for the 2024 National Summit on Mass Atrocities in Nigeria is a standing responsibility to protect.